next four mothers in type 4 are even less empathic and more controlling than mothers in type 3. They may delay feeding until the babies show acute distress. They may feed as though the babies were alien to them, or they may overwhelm the babies with food or with feeding procedures. In spite of general praise of their babies, they frequently scold and ridicule them for their feeding behavior. They consider feeding a burden and resent it. At no time do they feel free to foster intimacy with their babies. At first glance, this feeding looks restful, but the mother is tense, holds her infant rigidly, and is unsure how to proceed. She waits for a cue from the baby, unaware that she can take the initiative. Both wait. The baby gets restless, the mother more uneasy. The relationship between them is frozen. The baby stares into space, and the mother stares at the baby. His body is clutched tightly. Without any overt distress, the mother withholds the nipple while the baby's tension mounts. The feeding episode is joyless for both. At 1 year of age, this very well-endowed little boy was hyperactive and enjoyed no play. He made no sounds, and he rarely smiled. Here the mother dons a hospital gown, expecting that the baby will spit up his cereal and soil her dress. It is characteristic of the mothers in type 4 to be concerned with their own appearance. This hefty boy has taken a large portion of cereal, but the mother continues to ply him with it, as if her task were to get the full amount into him, whatever his emotional state. She's accomplished in prying his mouth open. Sometime later, she kisses him impulsively, removes the bottle without reason, examines it admiringly, cleans him, and involves herself in a busy burping session. In the midst of his feeding, the baby is suddenly folded in half and thumped resoundingly. Again, suddenly, he is set back in feeding position, only to be groomed at his mother's pleasure. Like many mothers who declare themselves to be more secure about infant care than they feel, this third mother in type 4 began to train her little girl to take semi-solids in the second week of life. When the baby cries, resisting the cereal, the mother takes advantage of the baby's open mouth to pour in the food. She ignores the baby's flailing limbs and paroxysmal crying. At her breast, she holds the infant cozily and tries to show that she's relaxed. However, ambivalent attitudes about her maternal role produce contradictory behavior. Although she breastfeeds, she pokes at the baby's ear, looks bored, yawns. As her tension increases, she strokes the baby's hair in a perfunctory way, tweaks her ear, and yawns again. This vigorous infant, at 1 year, was apathetic and grossly inhibited. During the feeding, the mother wards off all communication with the baby. All of her life, this mother has been undergoing great familial stress and has tried bravely to manage. Her willingness to participate in the research stems from her earnest wish not to repeat the actions of her own mother, who beat her. Nevertheless, her problems defeat her intention to act in harmony with the baby. The baby has been fed semi-solids since 2 weeks of age. The mother has said that his agitation during feeding is caused by his opening his mouth so wide that he swallows great amounts of air. Her rule of forcing solids and then withholding the bottle until the baby has burped adds to his misery. After 3 episodes of feeding cereal and 3 burping periods, she believes it may not be bad for him to have some milk. Hardly has he settled down to the bottle with relief, when her fear that he will become colicky causes her again to take the bottle away and to resume burping. She keeps telling him to calm down and not be bad. She warns him that he will get no food until he brings the bubble up. A hasty tidying creates more delay. Again she starts to feed. She supports the baby's head tentatively, as if anticipating another interruption. The baby is again thrown into disequilibrium and grabs at the mother's tie in an attempt to right himself. She disengages his fingers and shifts him into a better position to burp. With a kiss to remind him of her feelings for him, she says, as she continues to burp him, that he should be ashamed of himself. She says she will give him the milk, but warns him that he will get sick if she does. All of this is expressed as a matter of fact, for this mother is proud of her ability to remain at ease. The kind of interaction that is now seen occurred repeatedly throughout the feeding, which lasted an hour and a half. Very short feedings were alternated with Now the baby looks extremely fatigued. The mother does not restore the bottle until he is almost in a state of panic. And even then, she restores it only to quiet him temporarily. Much increased, and she has to dominate more forcefully. Her handling becomes rougher, her capacity for sympathy decreases. Giving him the pacifier, she tells him that if he isn't quiet, he can't bring up the gas. She adds that there is no sense in his crying and chides him for being all bound up. "Come on, sweetie," she says to him. "I know that my finger is hurting you, but we must bring up the gas." 5 minutes later, after he has once burped, she continues to pat and rub his back, supporting his chin in a taut position. Several times as he falls asleep, her activity startles him into fretful waking. She tries to comfort him with a kiss. But the baby is limp with exhaustion. He has fallen asleep with the pacifier, which has been given to him 15 times so far. The mother tries to burp more effectively by drawing circles upon his abdomen and poking with her finger. Her conviction that her efforts are correct enable her to regard with detachment the startles that dramatize his disturbed state. In a last try to bring up the bubble, she abruptly places him in prone position, lets him sleep briefly, and then again briefly in a sitting position. The mother said that this feeding was typical. In another context, she stated that the happiest time of his day was when he was being fed.